The world is changing. Every day, new forces are shaping the way nations interact, trade, and grow. The global landscape is no longer defined by a single power or a handful of dominant players. Instead, we are witnessing the rise of new voices and new ambitions on the world stage. For decades, the United States has been the dominant force in the global economy. Its influence has stretched across continents, shaping international trade, finance, and even the rules that govern how countries do business with one another. The dollar has been the world's reserve currency, and American financial institutions have set the pace for global markets. But now, a new group of countries is emerging, countries that are determined to have their voices heard and their interests represented. This group is known as the BRICS. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These 5 nations, each with their own unique cultures, histories, and strengths, have come together to form a powerful alliance. Together, these countries are home to more than 3 billion people, nearly half the world's population. Their economies are expanding rapidly, fueled by innovation, investment, and a growing middle class. Cities are rising, industries are booming, and new opportunities are being created every day. As their influence grows, the BRICS nations are challenging the old order. They are demanding a greater say in how the world works, from the rules of trade to the institutions that govern global finance. They want to ensure that their voices are not just heard, but respected. One way they are doing this is by creating their own financial systems and technologies. From digital payment platforms to new banking networks, BRICS countries are investing in alternatives that reduce their reliance on Western-controlled systems. The BRICS nations believe that the current global financial system, largely controlled by the West, doesn't serve their interests fairly. They see the dominance of the dollar and Western banks as a barrier to their own growth and stability. That's why they are pushing for a system that reflects their growing economic power and gives them more control over their financial destinies. They want a seat at the table, and they want the rules to be fair for everyone. This desire for financial independence is driving the BRICS to seek alternatives to the existing systems. Their efforts could pave the way for a major shakeup in global trade and finance, one that could redefine the balance of power for decades to come and change the way the world does business. At the forefront of this new financial revolution stands China, the world's second-largest economy and a nation with ambitious plans to reshape the global monetary landscape. Over the past decade, China has rapidly expanded its influence in international trade, technology, and finance, seeking to play a more central role in how money moves across borders. As global tensions rise and countries look for ways to reduce their dependence on Western-dominated systems, China's efforts have taken on even greater significance. To achieve this, China has been developing its own international payment system known as CIPS, or the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System. This innovative network is designed to facilitate seamless cross-border transactions in Chinese yuan, providing an alternative to the traditional systems that have long been dominated by Western currencies and institutions. CIPS stands for Cross-Border Interbank Payment System. Launched in 2015, it has steadily grown in both scope and scale, connecting hundreds of banks in dozens of countries. The system is a key part of China's broader strategy to internationalize the yuan and make it a more widely used currency in global trade and finance. Through CIPS, banks around the world can now send and receive payments in Chinese yuan more efficiently and securely than ever before. This not only streamlines international business for Chinese companies, but also offers foreign partners a direct channel for yuan transactions, bypassing the need for intermediary currencies like the US dollar. This development represents a direct challenge to the SWIFT system, which is headquartered in Belgium, and has long served as the backbone for most international transactions, especially those conducted in US dollars and euros. SWIFT's vast network connects over 11,000 financial institutions worldwide, making it the default infrastructure for global payments. SWIFT, or the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, has been the trusted intermediary for decades, ensuring that money can move safely and efficiently between banks in different countries. Its messaging system is considered the gold standard for international finance, but it is not without its critics. However, in recent years, SWIFT's dominance has come under scrutiny. Countries like China are increasingly seeking alternatives that offer greater autonomy, enhanced security, and reduced reliance on the US dollar. For many, the ability to conduct transactions outside of SWIFT is seen as a way to protect their economies from geopolitical risks and potential sanctions. CIPS now offers a viable and growing alternative, especially for nations and businesses looking to conduct trade and financial transactions in yuan. As more countries join the system, the global financial landscape is beginning to shift, raising important questions about the future of international payments and the balance of economic power. China has ambitious plans for CIPS and the internationalization of the yuan, its national currency. Over the past decade, China has been steadily building the infrastructure and partnerships needed to challenge the US dollar's dominance in global finance. CIPS, or the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, is a key part of this strategy, designed to make it easier for banks and businesses around the world to use the yuan for international payments and settlements. China's goal is to elevate the yuan to the status of a true global currency, much like the US dollar, which has long been the world's primary reserve and trading currency. This would not only boost China's influence in the global economy, but also give it more control over its own financial destiny. If the yuan becomes widely used in international trade and finance, China would gain significant economic power. It would be able to set more of the rules and standards for global transactions, and its companies would have an easier time doing business abroad. Another major benefit for China would be reducing its reliance on the US dollar. Currently, a large portion of China's international trade and investment is conducted in dollars, which exposes it to risks from US monetary policy and potential sanctions. Right now, China and its businesses often have no choice but to use US dollars for many cross-border transactions. This means they are subject to the rules and fees set by the US financial system and can face obstacles if relations between the two countries become strained. These transactions can be expensive and inconvenient, with high fees, long processing times, and extra layers of regulation. For Chinese companies, this can mean higher costs and more uncertainty when doing business internationally. If more countries and companies start using the yuan for trade, it would make it much easier and cheaper for China to do business around the world. It would also encourage other nations to strengthen their economic ties with China, further boosting its global influence. For decades, the dominance of the US dollar in global trade and finance has given the United States enormous leverage. The dollar's central role allows the US to influence international markets, impose sanctions, and shape the rules of the global financial system. By promoting the yuan as a credible alternative, China is seeking to chip away at this dominance and create a more multipolar financial order. In such a system, power would be more evenly distributed among different currencies and economic blocs, reducing the influence of any single country and potentially making the global economy more stable and balanced. China's push for CIPS is closely tied to its Belt and Road Initiative. This massive project aims to connect China with countries in Asia, Africa, and Europe through infrastructure projects like roads, railways, and ports. China wants to use CIPS to make it easier for countries involved in the Belt and Road to trade with each other using yuan. This would further boost the yuan's global standing. The Belt and Road Initiative is not just about infrastructure, it's also about establishing a new economic order with China at its center. By promoting the use of CIPs and the yuan within this vast network, China is laying the groundwork for a yuan-denominated trading bloc that could significantly challenge the existing dollar-centric system. So China's central bank, the People's Bank of China, fully supports CIPS. The government actually sees it as a key part of China's rise as a global power. And the city of Shanghai, China's financial hub, is also playing a really big role in promoting CIPs. Shanghai definitely wants to become a global financial center. It's encouraging banks and companies to use CIPS for international payments. Shanghai's ambition to become a leading global financial center is really intertwined with China's broader goal of internationalizing the yuan. By promoting CIPS and attracting international financial institutions, Shanghai aims to position itself as a key hub for yuan-denominated transactions and, contribute to shifting the balance of financial power. CIPS is already starting to gain traction. Over 1,300 banks in over 110 countries have joined the network. This includes banks from major economies like Germany, France, and Japan. While still relatively small compared to SWIFT, CIPS is growing rapidly. More and more banks are signing up as they see the potential benefits of using the yuan for international payments. The growing number of banks joining CIPS reflects the increasing appeal of conducting business in yuan. As China's economic influence expands, more businesses and financial institutions around the world are finding it advantageous to engage with the yuan, driving the expansion of alternative payment systems like CIPS. China's push for CIPS is part of a larger trend among the BRICS countries. All of these countries want to reduce their reliance on the US dollar and promote the use of their own currencies. For example, India and Russia have created their own systems for making payments in rupees and rubles. The BRICS nations believe that having more financial independence will give them more economic and political power. This move towards greater financial autonomy among the BRICS nations represents a significant challenge to the established global financial order. It suggests a shift towards a multipolar system, where several currencies and financial centers could potentially coexist and compete with the dominance of the US dollar. The rise of CIPS and other alternative payment systems has the potential to reshape global trade. If more countries start using the yuan and other currencies for international payments, it could weaken the dominance of the US dollar. This could lead to a more multipolar world, where power is more evenly distributed. It could also make the global financial system more resilient, as countries would be less reliant on a single currency. The potential shift towards a multipolar world order in finance and trade represents a significant departure from the post-World War II system, where the United States has held considerable sway. This transition could lead to a more fragmented but potentially more balanced global economy, with implications for international relations and geopolitics. The future of the global financial system is uncertain. However, one thing is clear: the rise of China and the BRICS nations is challenging the old order. The creation of CIPS is just one example of how these countries are trying to reshape the world. It remains to be seen how successful they will be, but one thing is for sure: the global financial system is undergoing a period of significant change. The emergence of new payment systems and the growing prominence of currencies like the yuan signal a potential shift towards a more diverse and multipolar global financial landscape. This evolving landscape presents both opportunities and challenges for businesses, investors, and policymakers navigating this new era of global finance.